prediction of a chariot and various kinds of paraphernalia for war, with which he attacked the King of Heaven. All the demigods, being afraid of him, left the heavenly planets and went away, following the instructions of their guru. Maharaj Parikshit wanted to understand how Lord Vamanadev, on the plea of taking 3 paces of land from Bali Maharaj, took everything away from him and arrested him. Shukadeva Goswami responded to this inquiry with the following explanation. In the fight between the demons and the demigods, as described in the 11th chapter of this canto, Bali was defeated and he died in the fight. But by the grace of Shukracharya, he regained his life. Thus he engaged himself in the service of Shukracharya, his spiritual master. The descendants of Bhrigu, being pleased with him, engaged him in the Vishvajit Yagya. When the Yagya was performed, from the fire of Yagya came a chariot, horses, a flag, a bow, armor, and 2 quivers of arrows. Maharaj Prahlad, Bali Maharaj's grandfather, gave Bali an eternal garland of flowers, and Shukracharya gave him a conch shell. Bali Maharaj, after offering obeisances to Prahlad, the Brahmins, and his spiritual master Shukracharya, equipped himself to fight with Indra and went to Indrapuri with his soldiers. Blowing his conch shell, he attacked the outskirts of Indra's kingdom. When Indra saw Bali Maharaj's prowess, he went to his own spiritual master, Brihaspati, told him about Bali's strength, and inquired about his duty. Brihaspati informed the demigods that because Bali had been endowed with extraordinary power by the Brahmins, the demigods could not fight with him. Their only hope was to gain the favor of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Indeed, there was no alternative. Under the circumstances, Brihaspati advised the demigods to leave the heavenly planets and keep themselves somewhere invisible. The demigods followed his orders, and Bali Maharaj, along with his associates, gained the entire kingdom of Indra. The descendants of Bhrigu Muni, very affectionate to their disciple Bali Maharaj, engaged him in performing 100 Ashvamedha Yagyas. In this way, Bali enjoyed the opulences of the heavenly planets. One of the qualifications to become Indra. 100 Ashvamedha Yagyas. In this case, Indra was not in a position to do anything about it. So Bali Maharaj became, you could say, the new Indra. Indra is the king of heaven. And of course he was, as mentioned here, Parikshit Maharaj wants to know how Vamanadev took away that opulence of Bali. But later on, Bali Maharaj again actually became, legally speaking, the king of heaven. He became the new Indra in a future date, at a future date. So this is just a summary of this chapter, and I don't know how many verses there are. Let's have a look. There's not that many. Practically speaking, the whole chapter has been summarized, word by word almost. Maharaj Parikshit inquired, text number 1 to 2. Maharaj Parikshit inquired, the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the proprietor of everything. Why did he beg 3 paces of land from Bali Maharaj, like a poor man? And when he got the gift for which he had begged, why did he nonetheless arrest Bali Maharaj? I'm very much anxious to know the mystery of these contradictions. Supreme Lord, why would he beg? Sometimes people ask this question of the Sankirtan devotees. If you're, why don't your God provide for you? Huh? Why are you begging from me? What do you say? Huh?
Prabhupada who said that we come to the people as sannyas beggars to remove their compassion.
To what?
To remove their compassion.
Evoke their compassion. Yep, that's one way of looking at it, if they have any. Yes?
To give them opportunity, because when they take to Krishna consciousness by prasadam or hearing, so they advance.
Yes, that's usually the answer. It's not that we need, it's they need. They are in the false concept they're the owners of what does not belong to them. So by engaging them, even against their will, they get an amazing benefit. Everything belongs to God and should be used for His pleasure. So that's devotee's mission, is to help others to, make that, let's say, unwilling or willing, whatever Lord Chaitanya said, willing or unwilling, we still approach them. And try to engage their stolen property in the service of Krishna. So that's the principle. So they're the gainer, they're the benefactor. It's not that Krishna needs what the devotee needs, but the people are suffering due to their criminal mentality of trying to claim proprietorship. So the devotee's goal is to establish Ishavashimi Dhamma Sarvam Yat Kincha Jagat Cham Jagat, to establish a God-centered society, that everything animate and inanimate that we see within the universe is the property of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But we see that people don't. Maybe in theory they say something like that sometimes, but they act as if it belongs to them. They fight with each other over property. They kill each other over, wealth and women and you name it, all kinds of things. This is mine. This is me. This is mine. This is their criminal mentality, which causes the living entity to remain in the prison house of material existence, perpetually until that mentality is changed. So if you can get somebody to give they have no idea of this process maybe, but we do, and we should try to help them to become relieved of their, criminal. Even 1 cent, Prabhupada said, will save them. It may take some time before it fully manifests, you could say. But it's the beginning of their journey out of the prison. Thank you, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. We'll read on. So, all this is for the benefit of Bali Maharaj and to teach a lesson to the unlimited living entities wandering in this material universe or in the illusion of thinking they're the enjoyer. Next verse, Shukadeva Goswami said, O king, when Bali Maharaj lost all his opulence and died in the fight, Shukracharya, a descendant, this is Sukadeva Goswami explaining what happened. Shukracharya, a descendant of Bhrigu Muni, brought him back to life. Because of this, the great soul Bali Maharaj became a disciple of Shukracharya and began to serve him with great faith, offering everything he had. So Shukracharya is, generally speaking, he's in the Bhrigu dynasty, one of the, lines of Brahmin succession, and And he's generally known as the spiritual master of the demons. Huh? Even the demons had spiritual masters. What to speak of the devotees? It's just a custom amongst, because they knew that that's where their real strength came from the Brahmins. They're Brahmatejas. They did with Vena. Huh? They took away all of his position and everything. They killed him, in fact, by Brahmatejas, because he was totally misusing his position. We could say Bali Maharaj was too, but this is Sukracharya's business, and his associated Brahmins was to, let's say, give them spiritual strength. Yes. Even sometimes demons today, they may have some counselors. In some countries they have some pseudo-Brahmana counselors also. And the idea is that they may not have that idea actually, they're just taking good advice. But the idea is that they do get Brahmatejas by the power of serving the Brahmins. Jarasandha, for instance, he was very much familiar with that. Serving the Brahmins. And they got his strength like that. Not all of them had the same mentality. We don't see that so much with Hiranyakashipu, but he was an exception, different situation. A certain Brahminical counselor may be wrong, but I think he did. The next verse, the Brahmin descendants of Bhrigu Muni were very pleased with Bali Maharaj, who desired to conquer the kingdom of Indra. Therefore, after purifying him and properly bathing him according to regulated principles, they engaged him in performing a yajna known as Vishvajit. You could use the same principle on the positive side. Living entities wandering in this material world, suffering the miseries of material existence. Brahmanda Brahmite Kom Bhagavan Jiva Guru Krishna Prasadi Pai Bhakti Lata Bija. Wandering up and down the material planetary system. By good fortune, they have the opportunity, Hare Krishna, I like it, yeah. They have the good fortune of associating with a pure devotee of the Lord. Leave him, he's shy. It's good to be shy. And they associate, he had the good fortune to associate with, you could say, a Brahmana. And that Brahmana, although he was basically spiritually dead and physically dead, the spiritual master, the qualified Brahmana, brings a person back to life. Now, it doesn't mean physically in the general situation, but spiritually wakes them up from their basically dead condition. Spiritually, people are dead, literally dead. Last night in the taxi, the taxi driver, some of you came back in a taxi last night with us. After you left, Jiva Pran started preaching to him, and he was very, very open. He bought a book. He didn't just take one, he bought it, right? He was very happy about spiritual life and yoga and this and that, right? And we gave him a book, and he immediately wanted to pay for it, and gave a €5 donation for a medium book. So he was engaged in Krishna service. His devotional service had already begun. This was just a big step forward on his devotional path. So it had already begun, so Jiva Pran, the Brahmana, he engaged him in further enlightenment. Very nice move.
You gave the book. I didn't have books.
Well, yeah, I always like to carry books when I go out. I had 2 books in my pocket, so gave Jiva Khan a book to give to him, and he gave it to him, and the man gave a donation.
But to be honest, I started to talk because he was a bit upset that we made a stop in the temple first.
I see.
And then wanted to...
Yeah, that probably wasn't on his original list of stops, probably. So he didn't charge extra?
Romini knows, I didn't ask him.
Okay. Maybe he charged €5 extra to get his €5 back. I don't know. I don't think so. He seemed like he was very nice at the end. Very favorable. Well, whatever it was, it was. So he got some blessings of the Brahmins. So Sukracharya, the Brahmins were always trying to deliver people. So in this case, Sukracharya is the spiritual master of the demons. He revived him physically. And naturally, Bali Maharaj became very indebted to Shukracharya and served him faithfully, following his instructions. Well, Bali Maharaj had a very materialistic mentality, you could say, at that point of time. It's his part to play, though he's a devotee. But he's playing the part of the king of the demons, so he has to play his part. If you're the king of the demons, you can't start acting like a devotee. I mean, you can take different situations, but you understand the point. That was his role, was to establish the position of the demons in the university, in the universe, in the university also. Same thing going on. So Bali Maharaj served Shukracharya very nicely. And he got power. So the same thing with anyone who serves a spiritual master. I mean, if they've got Shakti, Shukracharya has Shakti. He was in a bona fide line of succession. He also had a part to play. It's not that he's a demon. He's a partial expansion of Lord Shiva. So he's not just an ordinary, Joe Bloggs or something. He's not an ordinary guy. He has a powerful part to play in the order of the universe, in that sense. So the time was against the demigods. It wasn't a favorable time for them. It was a favorable time. Modes of nature, sometimes in favor of certain persons in different modes more than others. Kali Yuga, the mode of ignorance, is predominant. So we see that the general position is that the demons are far more productive, seemingly effective, more organized, more successful from the material point of view. You can see that. They're, relatively speaking, on this Earth planet, they're pretty organized in many ways. They've got control of more or less all the various systems, the monetary system, the education system, the social system, the media system, the health system, you name it. They've practically got control of it. Right? The devotees are few and far between, and we've hardly got anything. Hardly anything, materially speaking, right? One or two properties here and there, which they take away sometimes when they don't like it. Right? It's Kali Yuga, so the mode of ignorance, and those in the mode of ignorance, with a bit of passion, of course, are naturally at home with the modes. And we're also affected by that, so we're not so powerful either. We don't have the Shakti. Prabhupada was like a threat, a real threat to the world. It still is. We're not revealing him perhaps as much as we could, but he's a threat. He's the only real threat. Practically speaking, others are just serving the purpose of the demons, more or less, in the name of religion or spirituality, just making them more comfortable in the prison house and helping the leaders to continue in many cases. So anyway, the principle is there that by the spiritual master revives the sleeping soul, naturally the sleeping soul should feel indebted to the spiritual master and will follow their instructions. And by following their instructions, they become empowered by the Lord. So Bali Maharaj became empowered. The Brahmin descendants of Brigamuni were very pleased with him. When ghee, clarified butter, was offered in the fire of sacrifice, there appeared from a fire a celestial chariot covered with gold and silk. So they engaged him in performing yagyas known as the Vishvajit yagya. Vishvajit, is it mentioned? Yeah, Vishvajit. Doesn't say what it is. Vishvajit yagya. It's like a heavenly chariot, covered with gold and silk. There also appeared yellow horses like those of Indra, and a flag marked with a lion. This doesn't sound very, what we could say, it's like we see the example of Arjuna and Duryodhana when they went to Krishna to help, to petition help in the battle of Kurukshetra. And it doesn't seem like Arjuna really got very much in the way of, what we say, artillery or manpower or, strength, war, weapons or whatever. He just got Krishna as his chariot driver. He could have got anyone. And, it looked like Duryodhana got the whole lot. All the men, practically, not all, but almost all. And all the weapons and everything were all with Duryodhana. He was pretty happy with it. But there's another kind of strength which not now here we see that some demons do. They recognize that, not all, or they recognize it up to a point. But Duryodhana didn't see the point of having Krishna because he was envious of Krishna. Krishna wasn't even in the position of a Brahmin anyway, so what's the use of him? But Krishna knew, Arjuna knew, that Krishna is not just an ordinary Kshatriya or something. He knew exactly who he was. So he didn't want anything else, he just wants Krishna. A devotee also, we may have the tendency to be attracted to the material objects, and that keeps us entangled. But ultimately, a devotee wants nothing but Krishna. Doesn't want anything else. Not attracted. As long as we have those attractions to other objects, then we don't really get Krishna. He reveals himself partially, but not wholly. So you get a bit, but it's not the same thing. It's kind of halfway house, compromise situation. But if one fully surrenders to the Lord through the media of the spiritual master, then Krishna gives everything full protection. There's no fear. Otherwise, fear and feeling unprotected, insecurity is still there. If we haven't fully surrendered, we're still looking to other objects of the world for shelter. When Krishna says Sarvadharma Parityagya, he means giving up all other objects of shelter, or thinking that anything other than surrender to Krishna will satisfy us. And of course every living entity has to some degree, but the process of devotional service is to give up all other shelters and take complete shelter of Krishna through the media of the Parampara, the spiritual master, like that. Embracing his instructions, as Prabhupada said, quoting Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, they are our life and soul. There is nothing else. Nothing else matters. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur said, I don't care if I have. You can do what you like with me, Lord. The instruction of my spiritual master is my sadhya. It's not just my sadhana, it's my goal in life. My object, I have no other goal other than to serve the instruction of my Guru. That's surrender. That's surrender. And that's when we get Shakti, or real Shakti, not just reflective Shakti, which would be touched with the material energy, and consequently with conditional devotional service, but unconditional. Of course, in this particular case, there's obviously not on that platform, although the principles are saying he surrendered to Shukracharya and got material returns. Because Shukracharya that way inclined. That was his role to play. So all kinds of favorable things came out of the yajna, and they don't seem like flags. And what is a flag? What's the use of a flag? We see, maybe not nowadays, I don't know, maybe they do, they use the boats and they have flags on them, they warships, they have their flags. It does create a certain type of spirit, powerful spirit. And the army, they would also have flags traditionally, and bands, and horses decorated, and all kinds of festoons, and different things, which represented power and confidence and identity. You see, they will have the same uniform, same shield with the same, what do you call it, insignia on the shield, certain design, certain helmet, and they felt strength to fight. In a sort of way. Devotees wear devotional, what we call devotional clothes. They're only devotional if they're used in devotion. But a certain uniform which gives strength and unity in the battle against Maya. So what came out there? A gilded bow. What does gilded mean? It means covered in something, gold or silver, or what? Gilded. G-I, not G-U, G-I.
Covered thinly with gold leaf or gold paint.
Yeah, that was a good remember. I mean, it's a very rare word, but I remember it from way past. Sometimes my memory serves right. 2 quivers of infallible arrows. That's those things that you put arrows in. Infallible. They never fail in their purpose. They hit the target and fulfill the purpose which they were shot. And celestial armor also appeared. Whew. Pretty good, huh? They appeared out there. Now we're getting down to useful things, you can say, for a fight. Bali Maharaj's grandfather, Prahlad Maharaj, offered Bali a garland of flowers that would never fade. See, Bali Maharaj's grandson, and it's only natural because there's a big plan going on here. Prahlad is part of it, and he's a pure devotee of the Lord. Bali Maharaj is too, in one sense. He's not acting as such, but he is one of the Mahajans, a great Mahajan. He's not only that, but he's cited as one who perfected his life through Atmaniveda. Huh? He gave everything. Amazing. But he's playing a part. He's saying Krishna's plans working here. So Prahlad Maharaj blessed him by giving this garland. Everyone knows that it's a great blessing when you receive it. It's not just an ordinary garland which the next day you have to hang out on the tree outside because no one wants it. It's old and crackly and no smell anymore. Petals are falling off. Brown. Right? Only we can see there's a string in between these few crackly petals. And you put it on the tree outside to bless the tree or something. And no, this is indefatigable. It never withers. It never loses its fragrance. Ever fresh, never faded. There are some heavenly flowers on this planet that aren't. They're still affected by earthly conditions, but they do. You get gardenias, for instance. Their fragrance lasts a long time, even though they've gone brown. There's still a fragrance to it. They're not completely unaffected. Anyone who comes into this material world, especially this Kali Yuga, this earthly planet, will to some degree be affected by the environment, even if you are a demigod or coming from the heavenly planets, unless you're really transcendental. Everyone else is affected by the modes of nature. So even a great devotee sometimes coming into this material world, they may not, it's not on a totally transcendental platform, may to some degree appear to get affected. Not willingly, but by circumstances. And again, another nature of this Kali Yuga is that saintly persons are sometimes condemned to, hell by others, practically speaking, by some small error of some kind or whatever, mishap of some kind, not recognizing the actual saintly intentions. When Bali Maharaj thus performed a special ritualistic ceremony advised by the Brahmins and had received by their grace the equipment for fighting, he circumambulated the Brahmins and offered them obeisances. He also saluted Prahlad Maharaj and offered obeisances to him. So he showed all respect and gratitude and thanks for the, what they give him, what had been provided in the performance of this yajna. Worship of the Brahmins, this is the secret. And Lord, even Krishna said that, Govardhan Puja. What's the use of worshipping these demigods? They're just like puppets. We worship the Brahmins. They're the real, kind of like protectors. They're the real heads, so to speak. It's true. Not that we should disrespect the demigods, but the primary service is to the Brahmins. Then, after getting on the chariot given by Shukracharya, Bali Maharaj decorated with a nice garland, put protective armor on his body, equipped himself with a bow, and took up a sword and a quiver of arrows. When he sat down on the seat of the chariot, his arms decorated with golden bangles, and his ears with sapphire earrings, he shone like a worshipable fire. Prabhupada describes how a devotee, of course ladies also in their own way too, of course, but he was describing the men when they have nice shaved heads and tilak and neck beads, and they're dressed in dhotis and what have you, beads. They're also ready for battle, like this. And you look very effulgent. Many times Prabhupada said that, how his disciples looked very effulgent. And one time he was on a plane going to Hawaii, one Christian priest noted that they looked very effulgent, very shining. And similarly Bali Maharaj, because he basically Brahmateja, he got the strength of the Brahmins, he looked very Brahma, it was like Brahman, shining, he looked like the shining sun, practically speaking, as he went to battle. So devotees too, they're, I don't know, some people do remark, I've heard that several times, you Hare Krishna look different, you look sort of like you've got this shine about you, special kind of aura. It's, and you see people in the material world, it's quite clear that when living entities' bodies are quite young, they also have it. They've got like maybe not the same aura, but it's a shining aura. And the young kids, they all look quite effulgent. And as they grow older, they look more and more dull. And, isn't it? They generally become very dull, especially if they're meat eaters and drinkers and smokers and what have you. They look really dull, morose, and so on. The devotees never age. They're physically aged, but you could say their subtleties never age. So that comes through in their faces, the index of the mind, so to speak. So their face looks very bright, Prabhupada said. Devotees should not be morose. Sometimes we're morose because we're absorbed in Maya. When you're absorbed in Maya, you get morose, you get dulled out, drugged out, so to speak. When he assembled with his own soldiers and the demon chiefs, who were equal to him in strength, opulence and beauty, because they all took part, I guess, in various yajnas, they appeared as if they would swallow the sky and burn all directions with their vision. They were so powerful. After thus gathering the demoniac soldiers, Bali Maharaj departed for the opulent capital of Indra. Indeed, he seemed to make the entire surface of the world tremble. Sometimes devotees also by their vision, of course Lord Chaitanya is not in the role of a devotee, we can't compare, but just by his glancing at people it would transform them. Prabhupada also, his glance would, people were stunned by his glance. To some degree every devotee has certain power of glance. Indeed, here, the next verse, King Indra's city was full of pleasing orchards and gardens, such as a Nandana garden. All the demigods enjoy themselves there. Because of the weight of the flowers, leaves and fruit, the branches of the eternally existing trees were bending down. It says eternally existing, which indicates that certain of the trees there were in the heavenly planets, or you could say manifesting there, even though the duration of life is not eternal, not everything there is eternal, but it seems like certain eternal trees are present there. They're not destroyed at any point of time. The gardens were visited by pairs of chirping birds and singing bees. The entire atmosphere was celestial, and every conditioned soul is aspiring for something like this. It sounds a little bit like the heaven that some of the Christians depict, even in pictures. Everything is very beautiful and everlasting and what have you. They have a little idea, but it's not complete. Beautiful women protected by the demigods sported in the gardens, which had lotus ponds full of swans, cranes, chakravakas, and ducks. The city was surrounded by trenches full of Ganges water, known as Akash Ganga, and by a high wall. Akash is what? Like subtle?
Sky.
Pardon?
Sky.
Yeah, subtle, like the sky. Ether. Ethereal. Akash Ganga. So it's not like the gross Ganga, it's not gross Ganga, it's not correct word. The apparently, dimensional Ganga of this world made of water and other elements. But it's ethereal. It's ethereal. We can't relate to that, perhaps in our gross situation. In the heavenly planets, people are much more ethereal. It's like they try to go to the moon, and all they see is the gross core shell, right? This rock. They can't see anything else. They can't see the subtleties of these. Moon is also considered a heavenly planet. They can't see the subtleties. They just see the earth core, earthy core. But they can't see the subtleties at all. So earth is earth. But on the earth planets there's also the other elements, in which some of them we can perceive, the combinations, earth, water, fire, and air we can't see, but we can feel. In ether we can't really feel, though we accept his presence. So the heavenly planets are ethereal. You can't see it, you can't feel it, you can't perceive it in any way. Unless you have the eyes or the particular. That's why Prabhupada in one discussion with one person questioning if we can go to other planets, he said you have to have the proper body to go there. The person thought, he was thinking in terms of space suit. But it's not a space suit. It's a body. It's like if you want to enter into water, you have to have a specific body to enter into water. Or if you want to, in the sky, it's a little different because birds do have a similar gross body, but they have a different capacity to us. Every living entity has a suitable body for the particular situation. So if you want to enter into an ethereal place, you have to have an ethereal body. So when we wonder how Bali Maharaj entered in, well, he had mystic powers also. Very powerful. Akashaganga, and by a high wall which was the colour of fire. Upon the wall were parapets for fighting, things that go up and the soldiers, are on there shooting arrows down or whatever. The doors were made of solid gold plates, and the gates were of excellent marble. We were discussing last night, Sankirtan, not really hurry now, how the devotees go down to, and I just used play with, in English we call it play on words, the gates to hell. Châtelet les Halles. So in English, hell, it sounds like in the hell, hellish planets, And Châtelet is like a gate, a fortress gate to the city or whatever. So it's the gates to hell, Châtelet les Halles. And devotees go there for Sankirtan to save the living entities from going through those gates into hell. Yeah, that's why we're taken there. It's like this magnetic force. Although one of my requests is that during this rest of the year we do experiment and go to suburbs of Paris, inner and outer suburbs. Don't worry about the result. You get the point, Dara?
What is suburb?
Like you go to, I have to pronounce these things. Well, Sarcelles, for instance, is a suburb. It's a small township. Places like Drancy and Noisy-le-Grand. Places, small townships around and about. Cergy, Pontoise, Versailles, Évry. They're not very big. They're not like in London. But there are people there. There are shops there. There's always people at the metro, railway station. We need to experiment. This way we also get to learn the city. Most of you don't know anything about Paris. Practically nothing. All you know is the city centre and Sarcelles. That's it. But to get to learn, there are some rich suburbs, there are some black suburbs, there are some Muslim suburbs, there are some ordinary suburbs, there are suburbs with Indians. You go to, what is that? La Courneuve and Le Bourget. There are lots of Indians around there, lots of Indian shops. It's like a little India almost, some of those streets. Not to say you go there, but I'm just saying there are different pockets around the city. You meet different people, you never see different things. I think we need to experiment a little bit during this year. Not so much worry about big figures and, some days we're up. One thing about Acharya when he was here, he would go to a different place almost every day. And it's easy to get around. Just look at the map. There's trains going in 100 different directions. And you don't have to pay if you've got your card. You can go as far as Maloon, right? You can get to Maloon on the card, is it? All the way out to Maloon. Now Maloon is quite a big town, by the way. Maloon. Can you get to, what's that other place, that fancy place down south? Fontainebleau. Can you reach Fontainebleau on that? You can go all the way there on the metro, or the RER, or whatever it's called. And it's quite a busy place. Quite busy. But how many times have we been there? Melon, or whatever they call it. And Fontainebleau. Well, you have to ask Priyarani. She lives in Maloon. You know which one does and which one doesn't. Really long way out. Yeah, and there's one or two towns, not many. Most of them are on the south side. There's a few on the east side. Not so many on the north side. You can go to, what's that one? At the end of the line, on the H line, huh? Even on the end of the H line going north. See the name, I can't remember. Anyway, it's a small town up there, huh? Lusage. I mean, maybe there's nothing there, but what's the big deal? What's the big loss? Two of you go there and do books and see where it's at. You never know. I mean, you all heard that story of was it Keishore Maharaj? When they went on Sankirtan in England, and they went to this place called Paynton. There was nobody on the street. They thought, the heck, And they were just about to leave, and then one person came, I can't remember the story, came running up to them, and he'd been waiting and praying. He had no idea how to contact the devotees, practically. And he became a full-time devotee. Bought all the books, everything they had. You never know who's out there, Most of the people are scattered. They're not in the city centre. And most of the interesting people, they don't necessarily hang out in the city centre. What the heck they want to go to the city centre for? Nothing there for them. It's a crazy place. Tourists and mad people. And often people working. There's only three kinds of people there. Tourists, mad people, and people who work there. More or less, we'll study there. You meet the students, which is good. But anyway, just a request, you branch out a little bit. Yeah. They were linked by various public roads, the entire city being constructed by Vishwakarma. And he, of course, is the architect of the heavenly planets. So he constructed this city perfectly according to Vastu. The city was, and he, of course, he's the, you could say, the master of Vastu. The city was full of courtyards, wide roads, assembly houses, and not less than 100 million airplanes. And that's not like Charles de Gaulle Airport. 100 million airplanes flying around all day long, making a hell of a horrible noise, polluting the whole atmosphere. These are celestial, beautiful flower planes. People would travel in flower planes. They would never crash. There was no petrol. There was nothing like that. Just beautiful, fragrant airplanes flying everywhere. Beautiful demigoddesses and everything inside. Heavenly facilities. We would like that, wouldn't we? We try to make it in our tin can cars, but they're not a comparison to the heavenly demonas, heavenly planes. 100 million. This is just in Indrapuri, the city of Indra. And the crossroads were made of pearl, and there were sitting places made of diamond and coral. Not quite like your crossroads in Paris. Although Paris is a design city also. Nowadays it's different, but originally it was designed. You see the roads are symmetric. The buildings are symmetric. It is a very, materially speaking, a very carefully planned city. Whoever did it, I don't know if it was during Napoleon's time or after, I don't know. But they really were, they were expert to do more or less the whole city in a short period of time, because it's all the same. City centre, except for when new buildings have been put in, is basically all the same. Same height of buildings, same style throughout most of the whole city. The streets all come to, like, spokes of a wheel. It's very, very carefully designed city. That's why it's so famous, and all over the world it's the most famous city, Paris, for its architecture. It's the world's #1 city, overall. The city centre, we're not talking of Sarcelles or Noisy-le-Grand or Saint-Denis was also a nice place, in one sense. Well, it wasn't designed quite the same, but it was also a nicely built city. Everlastingly beautiful and useful women who were dressed with clean garments. Everlastingly beautiful means they never lost their beauty as long as they lived. No, not like after 100 years they look, they look like a bag of, skin and bones or something. But they were right from the beginning, they didn't go through the same situation. As you know, the heavenly pregnancy was not practically there. I mean, they immediately give birth. And, it wasn't like you had to go through babies, screaming babies. Immediately you come to a youthful stage and stay there till you die. You don't get old like that. Everlasting. Everlasting youth, or beauty in this case. Were dressed with clean garments, glittered in the city like fires with flames. They all possessed the qualities of Sham. And there is a purport, which nobody, perhaps you didn't notice it. Srila Chakravarti Thakur gives a hint of the quality of the Shama women. Shama. What would that refer to? The usage of the word Shama here. Shama. Not Shama, Shama. What would that refer to? Is it a Sanskrit word which means something? There's no definition of the word for word.
Generally we say like Shama. Shama means one who belongs to Shama.
That's right. But what does it mean in terms? Does it mean they're like goddess of fortune, maybe?
Maybe the color.
Yeah, because it says here that they possessed the quality of Shama. What is that quality? Internal or external? Let's see if maybe it's a description here. There's a verse here quoted. A woman whose body is very warm during the winter. Here it is. A woman whose body is very warm during the winter and cool during the summer, and who generally has very firm breasts, is called Shama. There you go. They don't have to wrap up with, fur coats in the winter and bikinis in the summer. They're naturally warm in the winter and cool in the summer. And their breasts never become, as is described in the Krishna book, like old string beans. Old string, when they get old, the breasts become like string beans. And they're just hanging down, thin and hanging. They remain ever fresh and firm. It's not that that's a meditation for us, but it's a fact. And that's what people aspire for. At least those in male bodies aspire for that. A wife who never gets old and her breasts remain ever fresh and firm. And they're always like soft and pleasing. So that's got the main anchor that keeps a person in the material world. It's either the show of this or the desire to enjoy this. Whether you're on one side or the other, it's the same principle. That, we're trying to enjoy this world. So the women there, and that's why a lot of people aspire for heaven, because these delights are there, and they appear to be eternal, but they're not. They last a long time, but they're not eternal. It's really Maya's, glitter, attracting our attention, driving people on with some faith that if I do this and this, I can attain to heaven and enjoy that. But there's no God there. And you even see, I don't know all, but there are pictures, they sometimes depict it, but you never see God in the picture. It's just all the people, dogs and cats, and everything looks nice, everyone looks happy. But there's no God. Beautiful scenery. I won't mention which religious group it is, but they do present this in their literature. But there's no personality of God. At most, you can say they have a Mayavad concept of God. At most, if that. Okay, well it's after 9. We're finished there. And we finished, there was a purport, by the way, in text 17. So tomorrow you go from 18, you can go right through to the verse which is on the board. I won't be able to give class tomorrow because we're leaving and we have a lot to do before we leave. Whoever's been in class, you're welcome to speak on this verse here, and onward you go. Fascinating. But all this is will-o'-the-wisp. Here 1 minute, gone the next. Nothing lasts. And the real spiritual master, the real gift, the real opulence is not the opulence which is of this phenomenal world, which is manifest to those with material senses. No matter what level you're on, it's all temporary. Brahma Bhuvanalok, everything is beginning and end and full of suffering in this world. Ultimately, temporarily it may not seem to be, but it is. It's the beginning and end. One has to come to the fearless platform of pure devotion and become eligible to enter into the kingdom of God, which is really, I can say, at the root of everything we're looking for. Hare Krishna. Any comments, questions? No, I thought you put your hand up. Oh, just adjusting the screen. We're very happy to see Vivekananda Prabhu with us, and we're happy also. I'm happy. I'm not happy that you're going, but I'm happy you're going to New York, because I think it will be a good experience for you and something which will help you in your future devotional service. Both because it's one of the main seats of your spiritual master, plus it's a very young and burgeoning, that means, developing program there, and quite dynamic from what I've understood. I don't know. I haven't been for years, but not to the temple to see. Did we go to the? No, we haven't been to New York for a long time, so I haven't been. No. We plan to also go this year, but you won't be unless you stay longer. We won't go to the autumn. Okay, so today, where are we going to go on Sankirtan? No, there's Harinam today at the gates of hell, so we have to be near them.